There is power in a story, and we all have a story. Our stories, if told, can inspire, encourage, and motivate. Hi, I am Rhonda, and welcome to the Book of Lives. Hi everyone, welcome to the Book of Lives. Today we're going to hear Dr. Joy Wilson's story. Dr. Joy is an educator, she's a therapist, she is a transformational leader, and she's a motivational speaker. Dr. Joy, welcome.
Thank you, Rhonda. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you. Yes. Dr. Joy, so on the Book of Lives, we are all about story. And stories have beginnings. Tell us, what was your beginning like? What was your childhood like?
Well, if you'd asked me that 30 or 35 years ago, I'd be screaming. I might not even have been able to talk to you. It was extremely traumatic. And I want to preempt what I'll say with this, that parents, whether parents or guardians, they can't give you what they don't have. You know, sometimes when you tell your stories, people who cared for you might think you're being ungrateful. But as a therapist, one of the things I teach my clients is that, you know, it's like bathing the baby who soiled his or her bottom. You will throw away the water, won't you?
Yes.
But do you like throw the baby and the diaper through the door? Do you do that?
No.
You know? So I tell people that you have to be clear about what worked and what didn't work. And it's in that context I tell about my childhood.
Sure.
So I learned from my foster mom that I was given to her at 6 days old because my biological mother was mentally ill before I was born. I remember my early childhood years being uneventful, apart from a bruise or a scratch. You know?
Yes.
I think that was kind of normal.
Yes.
But then when I was must have been about 8 or 9, my foster mom introduced me to my biological father, and that's where the horror story started. Because sadly, very soon after that, he started sexually molesting me, and that molestation went on until I was 15. I lost my virginity to him before I was a teenager. And my father enslaved me, forced me to do really hard labor, you know. And sadly, my foster mother, she was caught up caring for her grandchildren because her daughter migrated. So because of that, there was some neglect that happened. You know, and it's like you felt like this child that had no owner, you know, just my father taking advantage of me, you know, and you just on your own, sort of. You know, so that's what it is and what it was. And that really, really affected me very, very badly. As a result of that, I started failing in school, and my mom said, if you fail, I'm going to take you out. Would you believe it? She died without knowing that story. I never told her. But yet I blamed her because she knew who my father was and what he did. So, you know, I struggled. I said, why did she introduce me there? Why did she send me there? But then I thought I may have had the added trauma of never knowing my father and suffering that loss. But sometimes I said, I wish I didn't know him. You know?
Yes.
So I failed, and she took me out to school. Strange enough, it was that very father who sent me to learn typewriting and shorthand and English. And those are the skills that served me for the first 25 years of my career working as a secretary. It's amazing that somebody who caused you so much pain could be attached. Now today, God has called me to be a writer. You know, it's just amazing. Yeah, so that's how it went. And out of school, fortunately, going back into the technical vocational education stream, you know, that helped me. But let me stop there. You asked about childhood. Let me not go.
That's okay. That's okay.
But that's essentially how it went, you know.
So looking at your childhood, you know, many might say that you had quite a bit of setbacks, you know, quite a few setbacks. And, you know, at the risk of sounding like a preacher, it appears that these setbacks were setups for comebacks. Walk us through the process of how you used and have used these experiences to propel you to this point.
Quite interesting perspective. I mean, though I heard it before, hearing it again is like hearing it for the first
Yes.
time, a setback for a comeback. Fortunate for me, my foster mom, she helped me where she could have with my education. But one of the things I learned, and this is again not to disparage her in any way, but sometimes when a parent is not educated, education sometimes is not a priority.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunate for me, I had a neighbor who took an interest in me. Today, she's still in my life as a very good friend. She took an interest in me and she sort of propelled me and encouraged me. And I remember when I would tell her what I did with at the time I had 5 commercial exams, typewriting, shorthand, and English exams, and I failed all of them. And she went on as if she had paid for those exams. And that interest really propelled me.
Yes.
Actually, coming out of it was kind of dysfunctional because I suffered so much insecurity and self-hatred that I sort of consumed myself with work and study. It was an obsessive thing. It's just the need for significance, the search for significance, and I'm doing things to feel a sense of significance. And sadly, or for however it went, that was the dysfunctional way how I evolved. Working, studying, and trying. Like some people, when they suffer this experience, they bathe all the time. They're trying to prove that they're clean.
Yes.
Well, I guess my search was with work and study. And just good people in my life, a few very good people. My foster sister was very good to me too, very kind. It's just that she wasn't here. She lived in the United States, so there was that gap in the relationship. But, a few people came along, a few of my bosses on my jobs, just the few people, not many, because the experience affected me. You lived your life like a victim, and when you live your life like a victim, you attract predators. So there were some issues there, but overall, I was able to evolve. First, my faith in God, my relationship with God through the Lord Jesus Christ. I've lived for Christ over 30 years now, and that's like the foundation of everything. I love the Word of God. I love prayer. I love worship, and that really is my source of stability. But studying, doing well, and then coming into an understanding of my gifts and being able to use my gifts to serve people, you just continue to evolve. But I could tell you that now at age 56, I'm at a very, very good place of my life.
Awesome.
My husband, too, is a significant person who helped me. We met when I was very, very young. We had children before we were married. Then we married. We had more children. But he never left. He never threatened to leave, and despite his imperfections, he has been there for me through and through.
Yes. I'm happy to hear that you are in a good place. And today, because you're in a good place, you conduct lots of trainings, focused on childhood incest. I've been reading that you conducted trainings in Africa, Jamaica, the rest of the Caribbean, of course, in your homeland, Guyana. Tell us a little bit about that kind of work, and I'm sure it's quite fulfilling. Tell us about that.
Thank you. Not the rest of the Caribbean, just 2 other Caribbean nations.
Just 2 other Caribbean. Okay.
And Trinidad. I enjoy doing it. Why? Because I often say to people, nobody told me anything about sex. I was suffering an experience that I never even had a definition for. It was at age 26, after we were married, and we got our first television, that I'm watching Oprah tell her story with this woman she interviewed. And she's telling about her own experience. And that's when I got a definition of what I suffered. All I knew is that I hated it. All I knew is that I spent many years crying myself to sleep over severe depression. I didn't know what it was. So that's what makes me passionate about educating audiences, about educating parents, about talking to their children about sex and sexuality, about protecting their children,
Yes.
about being aware of the fact that not every person is safe for a child. Sadly, sometimes even their own parent or step parent, you know, and pastoring and counseling are two distinct jobs. So I love having the opportunity to talk to pastors in particular. I teach pastors at a Bible college and leaders. I serve in the church, but in any setting, even when I'm doing a staff development workshop for government workers, I talk about it because the focus of my work is an inside out approach to character restoration. And the family has the assignment for shaping character. It's through those experiences in the family and in the school that character is shaped. But if you got hidden stuff, with traumatic experiences and pain attached to it, it affects your character. It affects your sense of self, personality, identity. It affects your attitude, your attitude to life, how you function.
Yeah.
So God helps me to tell my story for the enrichment of other people. And when I think about the terrible, terrible shame and the anger and the fear that I suffered for so long, almost cost me my sanity. I was that angry. And you help people come to grips with experiences and the emotions attached to those experiences, to help to enrich their lives. Number one, I had to learn I had nothing to be ashamed of. So I want to teach people that you got nothing to be ashamed of.
Yes.
And help them, because one of the things I had to learn is to think differently about my problems. And that's what I teach people. The best known treatment in the world for depression is cognitive behavioral therapy. A basic thinking, feeling, behaving approach to life. And that's what I seek to teach people. If you could think differently about it, you'll feel differently and you'll behave differently.
Yes.
And sometimes lack of awareness or you're so ashamed that you have it so hidden so far because you're not in touch with that experience and in touch with the feelings and the thoughts it causes in you. You could be all messed up and you don't even know why.
I think this is a good point to ask you a really important question. What happens or what should someone do if they find themselves in an abusive situation, or if they know of someone close to them, maybe a family member or a friend that happens to be in an abusive situation? What should these individuals do?
I think the person who knows somebody who is being abused, you ought to be careful to know the laws of the land you're in. For example, in Guyana, you're supposed to report it, or you could be a part of that problem. You're supposed to report it, and there are ways to make anonymous reports. Some people, they don't want to make a report because they don't want to have to give evidence in a court of law. But there may be ways you could make an anonymous report, get all the information, make a report. Believe the victim, believe people. Sometimes people, it's like your consciousness can't deal with this. It's too difficult. And you don't want the person talking about it, and you don't want to believe it, because guess what? Denial is a way of coping with traumatic experiences. People don't want to believe it. You got to believe that person. That's one way to help them heal. Believe their story. For the person who is affected by the experience, whether currently or in the past, talk about it. Talk about it until somebody listens to you. And I'm pleased to let every person who has suffered childhood incest know that this book is dedicated to such person. My doctoral dissertation, Ministering to Victims of Incest, it's dedicated to people who suffered. And I want to say to such people, your history is not your destiny.
That's good.
Yes, bad people, some people did bad things to you that affected you, but they're still good people. They're still good people. And believing that truth, that they're still good people, and doing what you need to do to be well. Tell your story, tell your truth, put away false boundaries, because what tends to happen, some people have false boundaries. They just shut themselves off from people, and they shut themselves off even from good people. It's because they struggle with boundaries and they don't know what's good anymore and who's going to hurt me, so they shut themselves off. So I pray that by some means they'd learn healthy boundaries and learn how to shut out those who are a threat to their lives and well-being,
Yes.
but be open to people who are willing to help, people who want to help. Healing is hard work. I
Yes.
also tell people healing is hard work. What you're looking at here is over 30 years of work.
Mm-hmm.
Over 30 years of work to heal, to learn, to grow, studying and everything. I don't want anyone to think it's an overnight thing. Getting better is overnight. It's not. It
Yeah.
takes time.
Yes.
But be encouraged that it's not impossible.
Yes.
You can and will heal.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Joy, you have had an interesting journey. And before we close, I know you must have gained a few nuggets along the way. If there's one piece of advice you can give those listening, whether they're young or old, what would it be?
I would say especially to the children, the young people who have suffered incest, or even without that kind of negative experience, I encourage them to pay attention to education. Pay attention to your education. I respect people's right to believe what they want to believe, but those who will choose Christ, I would say, choose to make Jesus Lord of your life. Come back to the God who created you. Because believe you me, without Christ, you really can't find your way in life. But getting an education. I grew up very, very poor. One of the ways to break out of the poverty cycle is to get an education. And I love telling my students, I said, if I could be out of school at 14 and read my way to a doctoral degree, you can do it too. Get back to the education system. You're not too old. I started university at age 26. I didn't have CXCs. Get back to not 26, sorry, older. I was older than that. I was probably 30 something. Yes, get back to the education system, and discipline yourself to manage time well. And especially today with social media,
Yes.
people are wasting a lot of time. Put some of that time into studying something.
Awesome.
Put some of that time into an academic program.
Yes.
And if any of my Guyanese people listening to me, I would want them to seize those scholarships that are being offered right now. And not just in Guyana, all across the world, universities are offering scholarships. Get back into the education system and discipline yourself to learn something, to refine the gifts, because everyone has a gift. Everyone has gifts. Everyone knows to do something well. Yes. Refine your gifts. And I often tell people, I ask my university students, what would I be? What use would I be to society if I were sitting crazy on the street blaming my parents?
Mm-hmm.
My mom was mentally ill and my father took advantage of me. What use would I be to society? Yes. And blame is one of the oldest strategies people use. Yes. People are always blaming somebody. Take responsibility. Take responsibility and do something to make a difference in your life, and then do something to make a difference in the lives of other people. Because one of the ways to find wholeness and grow strong is to help other people. Help somebody.
Yes, yes, yes. Dr. Joy, thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And I'm sure it's going to inspire, encourage, and motivate someone that's listening. Thank you.
Thank you too, Rhonda. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
For those of you who are watching, thank you so much. Until next time, stay inspired.